Welcome to another edition of Strange New Pod. I'm your Fleet Admiral and host, Julian Brown, alongside the best bridge crew this side of a magic controversy, Orchid. Vice Admiral Eric is here.
I just saw the screen.
Oh, I'm the only one who didn't? No. Oh, I can't wait to go back and watch it. Oh my God.
Just pull it up on your phone.
I will. No, I'm seeing the chat. Oh my God, incredible. I'm stoked already. Fuck yeah. Oh, it's going to be that fucking show, guys. It's going to be that fucking show. Let's go. Oh, I'm here for it. Vice Admiral Eric is here, ready to be the hero that we need and already has been with that intro, apparently. Commander Hawk is here, ready to bury Tuvix, not praise him. Sub-Commander Draft is here, might be the only one of us who finds the episode interesting, as she said, entertaining. And of course, Commander MC is here, just happy that we're not talking about Tuvix and Leia Brahms in back-to-back weeks. Welcome back. It was the right call. How we doing, guys?
Doing all right.
Meh.
I gotta be honest, I'd rather talk about Tuvix than Leia Brahms.
Yeah,
That's fair.
Fair enough.
Probably too, because that shit's just creepy, and you know how I feel about Tuvix. Yeah, this week.
It stopped raining.
Why'd you have to?
right.
Why did you say it out loud? Why would you say that out loud?
Because I believe I don't want rain anymore.
The rain gods are gonna smite you again. Oh my God, no! Thank God though, like, because that shit was bananas.
Crazy.
Bananas.
You-
God damn it.
It's the new normal, guys.
Oh man.
Remember when we were kids and they were like, in like 30 years, the climate is gonna go rogue, and we're like, yeah.
Everything's
keep using our
fine.
hairsprays.
Remember when we
Everything's
put a hole in the ozone layer? That was fun.
Yeah.
I remember.
Like a tiny
I'm supposed to
one,
be
right?
flying into California next week.
You're fine. Probably fine.
Yeah.
Speaking of weeks, this is a week. The Band-Aid is off, the red tape unsealed, the strange new pod embargo lifted on Tuvix for 1 week and 1 week only. Next time you mention it, you're going to get banned on the Discord. That's true. I will ban you at least for like 10 minutes. We're going to review and deep dive this one for better or for worse. But first, Hawk, my friend, we need to thank our amazing Ready Room Collective at the that level, the Ready Room level.
Yeah, the
and
Ready Room
above,
and above.
please.
Thank you to Simon Stager, Jeff Reeve, Mariah Gossett, Tallulah, Jen Stein, Tina Alexander, Joe Saporito, Noe Santos, Kang Wee, Takako Nagumo, Fernanda Nogales, SMK, Laura Linderman, Colin Davidson, Jesco, Michael Graham, Emily and Travis, Gildara, Cassie, Blue Chew and Dorian Anachronism, Maggie Light, Tirana Killicus, Wayne Ritz, Scone of Arc, Sean, Jay Howard, Anna Yurdadon, Mahalani Uchiyama, Matt Harker, Davey Willett, Tara Pollen, Slope 74, Rude Parakeet, Joshua Miller, Adam Sanders, Eris Spengen, Lanky Guy, Aaron Volke, Carl Angoli, Michael Kwan, TJ, Mayor, Caitlin, Elizabeth Dean, Jim McMahon, Time Lord serving in Starfleet. That's illegal. Still is illegal. Sedano 317, Puka Hair, 3 Fries Short, Kate Tip, Tripping the Reed Alert over a Pineapple, Sean Manning, Congressional Baseball Fan, Chris Waterman, RHCB, Martin Simpson, 7 Rasmussen, Anna F., and our newest collective member, Norman Buckwald.
Woo!
Yay!
Oh, look at my fireworks go!
How did you do that?
I thought I turned that shit off. I got my new computer and I put a new version of Zoom on, and now I get like fun thumbs up if I put my thumb up. It didn't do it that time. Or fireworks. It's bananas.
Doesn't
I'll say
recognize mine because
bananas
it's
is my
racist.
word of the day.
There's a little up arrow by reactions if you.
No, I know it's activated, but
Yeah, I
you
have
don't
it
recognize
off.
my hand.
Mine's off, so I don't know what's
Weird.
going on. Doesn't like me. Yeah. Fireworks are cool though.
Yeah.
I liked them. No, that's not working. Oh,
I turned it off.
let's get into some news. I'm just going to pimp them right out of the front because I love the shirt that I'm wearing. We got a new package. The Galileo 7, baby. This t-shirt is awesome from our friends over at Heroes and Villains. You can get one just like this for 20% off if you have never purchased anything from there before. That's 20% off your first order using our code STRANGE. That's all caps, STRANGE. Canadian shipping hopefully coming soon. We'll see. Yeah, but get yourself. Giraffe got this dope ass Harley Quinn bag that is like,
Oh my god, he's so good.
yeah.
I
But
get
this-
that's the thing. Like I get so many compliments out of all my bags. And then they're like, "Where did you buy it?" And then I have to go into an explanation that I'm a nerd and it's
They
always
they
fun.
don't know that just by meeting you.
Well, the guy at the Starbucks doesn't know that.
Okay, that's fair.
But yeah, and I'm like, it's a Harley Quinn bag. I mean, it's very good, and I have 20% off. Do you want 20% off? It's a code strange.
Tell me now. Tell me.
I
now.
actually had somebody clock me for my Starfleet over shirt, and I felt really bad that I could not give them the promo
no.
code.
You should have done it anyway. And like, I don't know. God, there's got to be a way to like cheat the system. I shouldn't say that probably.
Well, the
but here I am.
French people put in order and had everything delivered at my place, and then I had to send that to them.
Oh, so you actually went to the post office for somebody. Oh, look at that look she gave me. That was awesome. That was amazing.
Comments. I'm already sad and buried and depressed, and you're just like
Just
punching
beating you
me
down some
down.
more. Yeah,
Mhm,
sorry.
mhm.
Let's talk about Disco Fest really quick. There are only 4 more days to get your applications in. For that, MC is doing me justice with the disco dance. Last days of Disco Festival. I think we just announced I Quit Star Trek is joining the fun, which is
My
awesome.
friends.
Yeah, they are an awesome show. Joining Star Trek Discovery Pod and Trexperts Quiz. We're going to have some more announcements soon. So, yeah. Speaking of disco, there's a date going around about the season premiere. Take that with a very small grain of salt. That showed up on Paramount Plus in one country, and 2 different outlets have reported 2 different dates, the 11th and the 4th. If it doesn't come from Paramount Plus or one of the big sites like TrekCore or Trek News or Trek Movie,
Or from us.
Or
Yeah,
from us,
we're
because they do
reliable.
tend to send us
yeah, we get the
Press
press releases.
releases.
So, just grain of salt. Listen, there's a good chance it is the 4th, but like we're not there yet. When
There's a
we
good
know the
chance-
date, we'll tell you.
There's
Yeah.
a good chance Paramount itself doesn't know.
Yeah,
when.
there's a very.
Yeah.
We were talking. I was talking about that
Right.
in my text with the Duras sisters this morning.
Yeah.
I think Ashlyn said it's like their social media person is like one guy, just like a constant like dime bag of coke, doing all the work.
Yeah,
and as Tara said in the chat, it is premiering at South by Southwest, right?
Yes.
March
But
11th.
on March 11th, but obviously that does not apply to everyone else.
No.
It's going to be coming out later on Paramount Plus, and there is no date for that yet, except for it will be sometime in April.
Yes. Exactly. Yep. Speaking of things coming up, Trek Long Island is coming up, and we are going to be there. We are going to have a table. We're going to have a panel. We might be doing some other really cool things that we can't talk about quite yet. But if you haven't gotten your passes, get your passes. I think the hotel is sold out already this year. I think they're doing a secondary hotel. Lots of cool guests there, including Gabrielle Ruiz, who is our favorite to Lynn. We have so many other awesome guests. Melissa Navia is going to be there. Just an awesome guest list. So get your tickets for Trek Long Island. We'll be there. Come hang out with us. We will probably be having some form of party. We've been talking to other podcasts about that too, so stay tuned. Also, who wants to say happy birthday to the whole reason we're doing this show tonight? Someone do it.
It's Tom Wright's birthday?
It's Tom Wright's birthday. No.
No shit. Really?
No.
No, it's Ethan
Not
Phillips'
ready
birthday.
online.
Ethan Phillips, our favorite Neelix.
Yes, I
Favorite.
saw that actually.
Well, he's our favorite Neelix.
He's our
'cause
favorite
there's
Yes,
only
he's our
one
favorite
Neelix.
Neelix. There's never been a Neelix better than him.
There's never been. Yeah. We're doing this all for you, man. Maybe really. Anything else on there that I might be missing? I think that's
Giraffe.
For me,
Giraffe, what's going on?
I will be on the view screen this Sunday at noon Eastern and 9 a.m. Pacific time. So wish me luck. So I'll be there talking with Amy from the BQN. Please come say hi. I don't know if there's gonna be a chat, but I don't know. Text me on Discord. We're gonna speak about everything Star Trek, about cosplay. There's gonna be other people. It's gonna be cool.
Oh yeah, the superb owl is on Sunday.
Oh, wait, I don't know these things.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Sports ball.
team. Go sports.
Superb owl. Superb
It's a
owl.
Swift
It's a
Bowl.
superb owl.
I'm more interested. Who's playing the halftime show?
I forget who's
Usher.
doing. Oh, Usher. And a lot of
Usher,
people
Usher.
think. A lot of people think. Yeah, Usher.
Yeah,
But a lot
I
of people
know.
think-
This is what's really messed up.
Is this
about it.
2004?
Nope. He's doing the Super Bowl halftime. Nobody seems to know.
But I think a lot of people think that Taylor Swift is going to
I
make a
know.
cameo, since she's going to be there.
They
already.
also think she wrote the book Argyle, so
Yeah.
What?
Listen,
I have to look this up later.
absolutely not
That's-
kidding. I will send you the video about it.
Yes, please.
Oh my god.
I also have some news.
everybody knows my conspiracy theory about
Yes.
Taylor Swift.
Yes, it's a good one. I like it.
Yeah. And don't tell me you're watching the Super Bowl on the chat. Come on, you nerds. We know you're not. Come watch the view screen. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. MC, what's your news?
For any of our fans who are also Whovians, which might be a few of you because you're all big nerds, I am going to be at Gallifrey 1, the big Doctor Who convention in Los Angeles next weekend. So if you are there, come and say hi to me. I will be hanging out in the lobby the entire weekend.
There you go.
That's amazing.
Nice. That
Is
amazing.
Shooty gonna be there?
No,
Oh,
they never get the currently
doctor.
the current doctor. The closest they got was last time they had Jodie last year, which was like right after she had finished, which was unprecedented. So
Fair.
yeah. There are some very good people who are going to be there, including some Star Trek people who are going to be there. So
Nice. Very
There's some
cool. We'll look
crossover.
for MC if you are going.
yes.
That's it, right? That's it for news. Are we
Yeah.
actually gonna do Tuvix, or are we just gonna end the show now?
I heard that Disco's premiering on April 4th. Lighten the
Oh,
mood
God.
before Tuvix starts.
We're just going to bullshit till the end of the show. It's like, oh no, we can't talk about Tuvix.
Yeah. I guess here we go. Here it is. It is our review of, or I should say our retro review of the Star Trek Voyager Season 2 episode Tuvix, not to get confused with Tuvixed. Was it Tuvix or Tuvix
No,
for
it's
lower decks?
two.
It was two as in
Tuvix.
two.
Yeah, let's do this thing. It is our review and deep dive of that episode. Our roundtable order tonight will go Hawk, Giraffe, MC, Eric, followed by myself. Giraffe's like, yeah, number 2, let's go. Let's get right.
Especially, I'm just after Hawk because every time I go before Hawk, I feel bad because then it's like
Why?
just waiting for me like to be done, like blah 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 blah. So now I don't feel bad talking a lot before MC and Eric because they talk a lot too, but I feel bad about talking a lot before Hawk because he just patiently waits and
Aw.
makes me feel bad.
But I like what you have to say. So
Same. This episode opens with Neelix driving Tuvok absolutely bonkers, which we would have missed if they never got like separated, right? The Bants, the Tuvok Neelix Bants. And they're gathering an orchid that could possibly be a new food source for Voyager because no one wants to eat Neelix's cooking anymore.
Fair.
As they're beaming up, the transporter chief notices an irregularity. And when Harry tells him to cancel, it's too late. And we wind up with, everybody say it together, a transporter
transporter
accident. That's right. Harry pulls a phaser, which is a move, by the way. The transporter accident winds up in sickbay, and everyone treats the combined versions of Tuvok and Neelix very coldly. Thoughts on how this opens up and how the crew initially reacts? Hawk, start us off tonight, sir.
Well, the opening is definitely the classic transporter accident opening, gives it a little premise and that people getting transported up, and all of a sudden it kind of cuts as you see the result at the end of on the pad. After that, after they realize what's happened, they treat them coldly, and I think why that's a good idea. Why not? I mean, at this point, he's a science problem that just happens to also be like two of the friends and crew members.
He's a science problem.
I mean, he's
really
not
is.
wrong.
I mean, he
though.
is.
We need a shirt that says Tuvix.
He's
He's a science
problem.
I want
That
to
could be
just say I'm a
arranged.
science problem.
That's a perfect shirt because it doesn't have anything related to Star Trek on it. We can get away with it.
Oh, we totally can.
Yeah.
Yep.
But one I noticed right off the bat was Janeway, and that she was particularly cold in that, and because this is Janeway, she's gathering information, keeping him and her at a distance, and I could see why, because like right off the bat, Tuvix really starts trying to ingratiate himself with the crew. I've noticed, and Janeway, and she's first and foremost a scientist by nature, so she's got to keep this dispassionate attitude to everything that's occurring. Because at the end of the day, she knows there's a scientific solution to this problem, and that she's going to have to act on it, and that despite any feelings she might have to this new emergent conscious.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. Giraffe.
I like it. I like it because first of all, now that I've watched Lord X like 77 times, it's also kind of funny how they just like, it's a transporter accident. Like everybody's just like blasé. I'm like, okay, fair. And it's just like, nah. At least he's not you. So that's good. He's not evil. That's good too. And I like that because we're so brainwashed by transporter accident going like absolutely berserk. You just like expect the thing to have like tentacles or like to go on a murderous rampage. And no, he's just chill.
It's just a guy.
It's just a guy. And I like that. I like that a lot, especially because he seems to be having the most fun of everybody else. Which I'm like, I'm here for that. I like it. So yeah, it's very classic. I love Voyager.
Same. I watched this today and watched like 6 more episodes afterwards.
Just because.
Yeah. Yep. Who's next? MC.
Yeah, so one thing I find really interesting about this episode is that it begins and ends with Voyager once again addressing the wrong fucking problem. Because Neelix and Tuvok are looking at orchids as a new food source. What? Like, this is like...
No, you eat orchids. In Turkey,
I mean, I know you can. I know you can, them. But is this really like the most effective way for them to like? I haven't gotten to talk about Voyager a lot, so I want to really get into this. What the fuck is with Voyager? And instead of sending 2 of your crew members, including your smartest crew member, down to this random planet to basically forage, why aren't you spending time trying to figure out how to take like the 1,000,005 holodecks you have and are able to run and actually convert that power to use your replicators more? Like, I know they fucking did it because they wanted to do their holodeck episodes and they didn't want to feel bad about it. But the whole like replicator ration thing never fucking worked.
No, and all Tom Paris wanted was a fucking pizza.
We learned from Picard that the holodeck like are
non-essential
totally
system.
Isolated. Yeah, isolated system. So
it is the dumb. I mean, but the thing is, they were able to. How many times did shuttles get blown up on Voyager? Like they had like some
270 times.
Some pretty brilliant resources.
Yeah, they
like,
also had like 74 photon torpedoes when they left the Alpha Quadrant, and like somehow had like 1,000.
Yeah,
they could have figured out a way to like I don't know, some sort of dongle to like plug the holodeck into the replicators instead of foraging on a fucking planet, which is what causes the whole problem in the first place. And I will get into why the ending is them addressing the wrong problem.
I love this. I love that this is where that went. It makes my day. Eric.
I mean, it's a transporter episode. It's how it starts. It always starts this way, right? And
Yes.
I mean, Hawk hit it right on the nail, man. It's a science problem. So they're like, well, fuck, what do we do? We can't like this guy. We're gonna start. It's like when you name something that you're gonna
yes.
like. You name a chicken that you're gonna eat.
Oh,
that's a bad
we don't
idea.
Talk about that.
I was
Yep.
going to say it's like the class animal, the class gerbil, and that it ends up
Yes.
being yours during the summer because none of the kids want to take care of it, and then you name it, and then it's your gerbil. Yeah, and then it's your problem.
Yeah. Sometimes you just want to
Eric,
grow a lobster at
clearly
home.
you have nobody grown up on a farm because like they name their shit all
I know.
the fucking
No,
time.
actually,
And they still-
my father-in-law is a lamb farmer, so I know he does name them. I wouldn't have the heart, but yeah, yeah, science problem. That's why they're
Science
called,
problem.
right?
Yeah.
It draws an little parallel between Borg and that one. Remember when they gave Hugh his name? Picard
Yeah.
was kind of furious about that.
As he and Janeway was equally. We're going to talk about this later, but Janeway was equally. You remember when like she goes Tuvix? What? Like why? Stop it.
Well, she
Kang-
grew up on a farm, so
She did. She totally did.
doesn't
She's fine with naming
Doesn't
things
make
and
the fucking gerbil. She knows fucking better.
Kang brings up a great point, but we wouldn't have gotten Voyager cheese then, MC.
True.
And then we would have gotten the Lower Decks episode. So I don't know. I'm still
If
with
they
you.
would have found something else. Come on, it's Voyager.
So, what do I want to talk about? What do I want to talk about? So many things. This episode starts off exactly how it should start off. Harry pulling the phaser, good idea. You don't know if like there was random shit down there, like a random species that was just like, let's like combine these two and put a spy on the ship. Harry pulling the phaser,
Flying murder pancake.
yeah, good call, right?
I mean,
Going
his
right to-
uniform's even different. Like they
Yeah,
could have just made it. I mean, it looked cooler, but whatever.
Right. And then like going to sick bay, right call. Everybody treating him exactly how they treated him was like, boom, perfect. So good. Everything starts to spiral right after this, basically, because they just keep giving him more freedoms, and we're going to talk about that. But like the minute that they did these scans and the minute that Kes does her scans, and we're going to talk about this too, and is like, oh, you don't even have like multiple personalities. Not like they're in there like fighting for dominance. They're dead. You just have their memories. Like they are dead. From that moment on, motherfucker should have been put either in A, the transporter buffer, or B, into stasis until the doctor figured that out. And that should have been the end of it right there. So
On the saving energy at that time, is there like a thing where like they try to not use too many like
okay,
other
fair,
programs and
fair,
stuff?
but there's like you can still put someone in a stasis.
Put 'em
pod.
in
I
the
don't think it's
brig.
gonna take or
Yeah, at
brig.
least.
Okay.
I
mean,
remind
that
you
seems
that
very unfair.
that
That's fair,
Tuvok
fair.
wanted to fucking airlock somebody to not keep them on the brig.
did.
You remember? Yeah, you remember?
Wasn't it?
Like,
Wasn't
no.
it Suitor? Wasn't it Suitor? Yeah.
Suitor, yeah. Like let's airlock him.
Didn't they have a stasis field for Tom in, I'm going to name another controversial episode, Threshold? And then it didn't
Yes.
work.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it didn't
So
work yet.
they have the stasis field. It's just a matter of they didn't use it.
I mean, they also could have just confined him to quarters and just not spoken to him and had a security guard out there. There's many.
I mean, if Scotty can stay in a transporter buffer for God knows how many
75
years, yeah,
Right,
they can
and
do
that-
this for.
Yeah. So
Well, the thing also is that like they're trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. I mean, like, don't shoot the guy. And I will say though, they're not gone because he still has the feeling of each of them, and also the habits of each of them, and also the discipline of each of them. So he doesn't only have memories; he loves Kes like Nelix
right.
does.
Yeah.
So
But I feel like that actually makes it worse.
Yep.
You know, it's just like the two, even though they're not fighting, it's just like it just doesn't. It shouldn't.
And also, they recognize the traits of both of them. That's why I don't think they want to like put him in the brig or like,
Yeah.
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
Right.
they still
Yeah.
see Tuvok and they still see Neelix.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to support the transporter buffer idea, I mean, they were able to do that on the front lines of the Klingon war. So, like, that seems like the thing you're supposed to do. I mean,
Yeah,
granted,
They do it in Voyager.
Yeah, they do. They do it like a couple seasons later.
Yeah.
Tara writes, yeah, solitary confinement. Janeway wouldn't do that without cause, but she has. She did it with Suter. Like at the end
look
of that
at what she does without cause at the end of this episode.
Yeah, right.
She has a cause. Come on.
Suter is basically in solitary confinement.
Well, he's a serial killer.
He's a murderer.
Also.
But no, yeah,
Like,
that's with
I mean-
cause. Yeah, with cause. Yeah. I want to talk about this real quick. One thing that stuck with me rewatching it today here is when Kes is, well, I guess we already talked about it, but if you guys have more you want to talk about with it, when Kes is studying him, he very clearly says it's not multiple personalities, right? Like I said, there's no one fighting for dominance. Tuvok and Neelix aren't alive in there. It's just their memories. And yes, like you said, Giraffe, like their mannerisms, their traits, their skills. But I mean, they are dead. Like they're dead. Tuvok and Neelix do not exist anymore. Thoughts on this?
Hawk.
So far, like dead might be a strong word, but like essentially, yes. It's like their molecular data is all present there, but only as like the composite materials that make up Tuvix. So in a way, let's see. Yeah, he identifies himself as a singular consciousness, even though it is like he does have the memories of both and that. But like right up until that point where he appeared on the transporter pad and that, his consciousness didn't exist before. Now it does. The weird thing is with this episode, in a way, the issues around identity are kind of better handled than a lot of other episodes where they try to make it like
say it louder.
Yes, particularly any of the episodes where they try to handle the biracial themes and that. This one is a lot better. It's not the two wolves nonsense going on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's a singular consciousness and that formed from the memories and experiences of Tuvok and Neelix.
Yep. Giraffe.
So I think the whole, and that's why I really love this episode, is because it doesn't give you keys. You like interpret it with your own like philosophy, your own views on religion, and what you consider like what makes a person. What makes a person? Am I here because I have my DNA? So that makes who I am. They do have both the DNAs. Am I a person because of the sum of my experience? Which he has, both of them. Am I a person because of my feelings and my reaction to life, which he also has, because he also reacts to whatever happened as Tuvok and Neelix, and they all see it, by the way. They all like, oh, he has like great advice and a sense of humor. Oh, he cooks very well and he loves cooking, like all these things. Am I a person because I'm able to interact with you, or because I love you, or because you're my friend? Like there are like so many questions. The only thing that Tuvix, I was gonna say Neelix, Tuvix like doesn't have is that he's not able to separate the two voices. So he's both. So because he's both, is he one or is he two? And the thing is like, is he? And that's the whole question of the episode. So like saying, they're dead, they don't exist. Okay, yes, if you base on the fact that they exist because they have a body, a separate body. But then we see AI that are conscious, right? In Star Trek, for example, the Doctor doesn't have a body, though he is a person. We see that Zora doesn't have a body, though she's a person. So,
Well, right. She's
or Grey.
Yeah. Yep.
Grey Tall doesn't have a body, right? Until they make the body, right? So like there's always that question of what is identity and what are you what makes you a person? And that's why it's super cool about this episode is like there's not a good answer and nothing really works and everything kind of works also. So like what was the question?
We're trying to decide, like, in regards to
I think you
memories,
did cover
yes.
it.
You covered it. No, you covered it. I just want to go back to what we were talking about previously before you go, MC. Zanzis Primo 702 writes, to find other solutions other than killing Tuvix, imprisonment would be the best solution. To which, yes, I brought that up, but I don't agree with it. Would it be an option? Yes. I don't agree with it. I think that the ultimate resolution of this episode was the way to go. But I think the other way to having handled it would have been the transporter buffer or a stasis pod. I don't think keeping him alive in solitary confinement is like cool. Like it's not.
And that's the thing I like about that episode. It's, we always speak about the trolley problem or like the needs of the many, and all this, which is very cool, like to like think about, and like to try to have this conundrum and these dilemmas, like philosophical dilemmas and like what would I have done? But it's like, I think everybody saw The Good Place, the episode of the trolley.
Yeah.
So there's a very different. These are very different scenarios when they're real, and you have to take action, and your action has some unethical dilemma because you can think about, we would put him in prison, but he's still Tuvok and Neelix. Would you put them in prison? Like, they're your friend. They're people they're like your crewmates, somebody you have relationship with. And yeah, they merged, but
they weren't until they were. They weren't until they were. Like, they let it get to a point where like Tuvix was able to become a friend, but at the beginning they were cool to treat it like we were all saying a science.
That's where
project.
stasis or like somewhere where Tuvix is not conscient of what's going on is like fairer than like just straight leaving him in the brig where he like sees how people are treating him, because that's the other thing I wanted to say. Sorry. See, that's why I wanted to be after Hawk. Like, there's a question of the conscience, right? Like Tuvok and Neelix consciences. Conscience.
You got it.
Yeah, are still existing inside of Tuvix. So there's like this direct link, right? And when they separate him, they also still continue to exist in Tuvok and Neelix, right? So their consciousness were never lost, never disappeared. They just at one point they were merged and then they separated again. So they didn't lose the sum of experience that Tuvix had, right?
Did they? Because it doesn't help the episode ends immediately and we never find, there's never any follow-up on it. But Tuvok and Neelix never actually say whether or not they remember what happened when they're.
I would say they remember Tuvix. Because Tuvix remember what's happened before. He remembered the grabbing the arcane and all this. So there's like a direct link. Like he remembers what's happening before. So for me, I suppose they remember what happened.
I feel like they were so. I mean, it's very hard to tell by when they're separated if they remember, but I got the impression that they had no fucking clue what was happening.
It seemed like they knew that something happened, but they weren't sure of the exact
what it was.
Thing.
Yeah.
You and your thumbs up.
Did it happen?
Yeah. So the thing is, if you imprison them, they're still your friend and they will still remember that. Do you want them to suffer or do you want to try to, ease them into the situation? Especially if it's a situation that you may not be able to reverse.
Yeah.
Stasis would be I think Stasis would be better than.
Yeah.
Stasis maybe definitely not prison, but at the same time, he wasn't displaying anything that could be considered threatening either.
No, but it's still like, and I'm not saying this is a joke anymore. It still comes down to they use the words themselves in the episode. Science problem, they don't use that, but they use transporter accident. Like at the end of the day, it is still a transporter accident, whether he's showing hostile things like what happens in the Lower Decks episode or he's docile, right? Like in this, pretty much. Tara in the chat writes, and it's never spoken of again. Naomi Wildman brings it up to a stranger at some point, and like the person's like, well, that's impossible. She's like, I couldn't make up a story like that, could I? MC, it's your turn.
Okay, well, in this episode, Tuvix brings up the analogy of basically that he's a cake. I think actually a better analogy is that he is scrambled eggs. So both Neelix and the names are gonna just mess me the fuck up. Tuvix and Neelix are both eggs, and they end up getting mixed together. The original eggs completely lost, but you can actually see what they were in this new form. But I mean, in this case, it's a sentient scrambled egg, so I'm quickly losing my metaphor. But
Talin made them a non-sentient scrambled egg.
I mean, like that
Exactly.
is the thing. The only reason it does not become an issue in the Lower Decks episode, and I think that
Eric's
we have,
dying.
bringing up the Lower Decks episode, the only reason they get rid of the whole moral quandary is because it accidentally ends up that they're a non-sentient blob of flesh. And Tuvix does, have memories of, being affectionate with Kes, but does apologize right away and basically says that it's kind of muscle memory and acknowledges that he also has lingering feelings for T'Pel because obviously Tuvok married. I see Giraffe brought this up and I'd never really thought about this before, whether or not Tuvok and Neelix actually recall anything. I actually do side on the idea of them not remembering anything as Tuvix. Because while Tuvix remembers everything from both of them because it's merged together, I think it's different when it's separated because suddenly everything becomes very, fractured. But that's just me. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is for, if not a professional writer, then a fan fiction writer to address, how Tuvok and Neelix feels after the whole incident. Like, do they support what happened? Like, it could be very interesting if, Tuvok supports what Janeway did and maybe Neelix, feels a little sympathy for what they were.
I think both of them.
I think both of them are very happy to be back. Yeah.
I mean, but if they remember that fucking trauma of what happened,
True.
like, I mean, that might be something different.
Yeah. Eric?
I love this moral quandary, or not moral quandary. I love this idea that we're not sure if they were killed or if they're merged, or they're like Meatloaf, like Ensign Rose said in the chat. And it when this came up in the episode, I thought about Frankenstein and how, like, are they a person because they're the sum of their parts, or are they just those parts put together? Are they a person? And that's a great story to just explore that idea. And I like that Star Trek didn't give us a definitive answer in this. Like, you could take it so many ways, like we've all done here.
I feel like Janeway was pretty definitive.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get to that. Personally, I think that they don't really remember what happened. I feel like there might be like some haziness there, but who knows? They don't talk about it ever. And if you go through something this traumatic, would you want to talk about it with everyone? Probably not. They don't have a...
Neelix would definitely talk about it with everybody.
Everyone.
That's fair.
There is
Everyone
that,
and their mother. Yeah.
He would do like a show and put it, in every TV.
That's fair. Touche.
The ship, like it would.
Do you remember when we were the same person, Mr. Vulcan?
Oh my God.
1000%. Like
Fair.
1000%. He would sell the right of the book for the movie before writing the book. Like,
He's one
He'd
of the
actually
hottest.
sell the rights to the movie and the book to the doctor who would write it and then get slandered by the crew again.
I like it.
yes. Holodeck novel.
Shit. Eric, keep going.
I think I'm done. I like it's a fascinating thing.
Yeah. I feel like we're gonna go in circles a little bit here, and if you just want to pass on this next point, we can get to the next thing, but I'll read it and then we could decide. We're going into giving Tuvix more freedom and roles, right? He's feeling restless and being probed a bunch by the doctor and Kes, speaking of Janeway was fucking cold, but at the beginning, Kes was like,
Well, two people that she's really close with, right?
Right. The two people, right? Yeah. He has to go back on duty at tactical, which is kind of funny, right? It's like, dude, even if you were here for good, I'd still be like, let's put you on like probation for a little bit. You're not good. Janeway,
She sends him to the kitchen first, no?
She sends him to the kitchen. Yeah. But I was like, dude, you're asking for tactical. Like, you've been here.
He's half Neelix.
24 hours. Oh my God. And Janeway's just like, nah, dude, sorry. But yeah, she does let him go back to the kitchen, engage with the crew, etc. Thoughts on Janeway letting him have, I'm going to use the word freedom.
This was beyond presumptuousness for him to even suggest he'd be allowed to resume tactical duty. Okay, like Tuvok, Starfleet. Neelix wasn't Starfleet, and Tuvix is most certainly he wasn't either. And you know, you'll see why like Tuvix is actually a kind of a new person, a singular consciousness from like his attitude going forward from here, because like there is this weird arrogance about him throughout the entire episode. And that like what's eerie is he's unbothered by like the entire situation, you know, by his
called being Vulcan.
No, it's worse than that. But I mean, like if you even if you discounted the Vulcan side, you had Neelix, who was a very emotional person in that, and who would have been in a state of tizzy if he was actually kind of conscious of it. But there is a weird arrogance to this character in that he is unbothered by it. He's presumptuous in the fact that he thinks he knows what's best going forward. And yeah, like it. I think Janeway was right to give him the kind of freedom in that, a little bit here and there in that, allowing him to associate in that, but she knew to keep him away from like the important stuff.
I think it all comes from the fact that the doctor says they can't solve it.
But that's later that then she lets him resume tactical. Like before he even says that, she starts giving him freedoms.
Well, at the beginning, right smack at the beginning, he's like, I don't know how to like separate them. It may take like 2 weeks, 3 months. Like I don't know. I'm gonna work on it. So, and we saw already with Sutter that they don't want to keep anybody in prison like for that long because you know they're still like trying to save energy, save food. On one hand, it's one less person eating.
Yeah, no.
One less Neelix eating.
So I do think it's the human thing to do.
Oh my God.
It's the human thing to do also that if they don't know if it's fixable, let the person at least be, you know, comfortable, I suppose, helpful. They also need people doing shit. Mm-hmm. Like, how many of them are left at that point? Like,
I don't agree with that. I really don't.
No?
Okay, no, I don't.
He doesn't have a tactical officer at that point.
Okay, hold on. That's a ship full of Maquis who were like on the front lines, like fighting a fucking freedom fight. Someone could have taken that role, I think, just fine. Was the kitchen a mess? They did that scene for dramatic effect in the episode. I think they could have. I'm going back to MC's great point. They could have figured out the replicator situation. Like honestly, right? I like those. I hate to say this because I actually don't necessarily agree with myself. I don't think Tuvok is very replaceable, but I feel like they could get by.
That's
but
what
like
I was
it's not. Say. Yeah, okay, yeah, but like Neelix,
he doesn't want to get by.
No,
Janeway needs Tuvok. It is known. Like he is half the reason they actually make it back. Let's be honest, and she knows that. And that guy Tuvix still has the skill, the knowledge, the memories, the emotional range, everything of Tuvok. Even if it's not, it's Tuvok plus, right? But we see her like asking for advice, having conversation with him. I do think at what point they still. It's also a story about grieving. And
100%. Someone in the chat just brought up that amazing conversation, the acting in that scene between Kes and Janeway.
Yeah, and it's a question of like, if you lose somebody, but somehow they kind of still are here, you know?
You know what I equated it to? It's like when like somebody might be lost at sea or lost in some sort of situation and that, like, you know, they presume they're dead, but they can't verify it, and that so it leaves that person hanging and not knowing, right?
It's actually,
I would say the ex that keeps texting you.
Yeah, but no, it's actually very much also the Riker situation in Best of Both Worlds. Guinan's like, he's gone. Like, I've let him go. You need to let Jean-Luc go too. But he can't because he's still there, right? Like, it's still Jean-Luc, even though it's Locutus. Yeah, so
and it's even worse because they're here and like you can actually talk with them.
Yeah,
they're not a Borg. They're
Yeah.
not like absent. They're just here. You can actually sit with Tuvix and kind of talk with Tuvok.
Right.
You will have the same feedback, but with humor. So, so I do think it's impossible for them to just like we'll put them in stasis. We'll lock them away. We stop talking. Where we'll not engage, like because they crave the relationship that they lost with Tuvok and Neelix. I mean, mostly Tuvok, let's be honest.
But does that make it the right call?
Neelix is not here.
Right.
Well, the thing is, that's what I was saying. Like, it's always like when we do like philosophical dilemma, we're always like, what's right? What's wrong? But the thing is, like, we're governed by our emotions. Like, when something like this happens, you got to go to the relationship, to the person, to what makes you feel like not horrible. And I maybe it was not the right thing to do, but that's exactly what we would have done. Like nobody wants to lose a friend. Nobody wants to lose a crewmate, an advisor, a counselor, I don't know, a confidant.
No. I mean, no, you're right because we see this a few seasons later when Seven joins the crew and Neelix is dead for 18 hours and Seven's like, I can insert him with nanoprobes and bring him back to life because as the Borg, we assimilated a species with the technology to do that. And Janeway was like, fuck yeah, do it. Like, do it now because you don't want to lose people. So I get that.
And also, I think that it's the force of Voyager because, in Star Trek, like the other series, they always do what like is noble and what is right. And Voyager is like, no, I do not want my freight to die. Like, I will fuck around with science to make sure they're not dead.
There's so many episodes that deal with this, actually. There's also the episode where the crewman comes back who had died, but there's that species that basically...
Ashes to ashes. I love that one.
Which is a great fucking episode. And they do okay, listen, STO has its problems, but they did a great arc with that species in Star Trek Online.
The Kabali?
The Kabali, yeah.
And there's also like the episode where, they think like that species like sends their dead to that asteroid.
Yeah.
And then what is Kim that gets like sucked into a portal, and there's the whole thing that to go back you kind of have to die.
Yeah.
Like they do a lot about this. Yeah.
Yeah. Who am I on? MC?
Hawkins.
Hawk
My bad.
Wow. There's so much. That's kind of my thing. It's like we've been talking about so much. It's like, look at the outline. What was exactly the question?
Freedoms. Was it the right call?
No, freedoms.
The initial freedoms.
I think I have a different perspective on this episode than everybody else on the podcast and most of the people who answered our poll. I think that Tuvix, it makes sense to me that he should immediately would say, would you want me to go back onto tactical? Because I mean, if there's nothing that the doctor can do right then, and he seems to be like physically and mentally fine.
I'm going to be that guy for a second because so at the very beginning, he doesn't say that. He just doesn't know. They're still doing the tests. And that's when he asked to go on tactical. It's later on that they call him to the sick bay and it's like, listen, I've exhausted all my options. This could be months or even years. And that's when it happens. So the initial
fair.
freedoms are before the doctors come up with like a firm diagnosis.
Well, certainly the doctor was fine with that, with him leaving sick bay.
Right.
The doctor is fine with random shit. Stop it.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying that from the perspective of somebody who is on the crew, if the doctor says that you're okay to leave, then like your initial thing is going to be like, I'm going to go do my job. And if you've got Tuvok in there, Tuvok's going to say the logical thing for me to do is to do my job because my job is more important than Neelix's. And Janeway, rightfully does say no. And then he goes and does the stuff in the kitchen, which He did a much better job than fucking Neelix did. Like, my biggest problem in this episode is that we lose Tuvok. Like, I mean, if it had been Neelix and somebody else, I probably would have been fine with it.
True.
Yeah. Eric.
Huh. I mean, it makes sense that he gets his freedom. Like, what was he going to do in the medical bay other than annoy the doctor who's trying to help him, right? It makes sense that he would go out. Should he have had maybe someone watching him? Maybe, just because we don't know what happened during the whole transporter incident. So maybe that is where maybe there was some issue, but I don't see an issue with him going out. Like, he would have, well, he's half Neelix. He would have annoyed the fuck out of the doctor while the doctor's trying to help him, right?
Yeah.
Except Tuvix was very charming.
That's part of the problem.
And you know, also when shit happens to you, you want to go back to somewhere where you're good. That's literally what I was talking about.
Yeah.
You know, when things are shitty, you want one thing to feel where you're efficient and you're good and you know how to operate that thing.
Right.
So I feel like Tuvok being like the inside Tuvok is, you know, troubled by this and asking to go to tactical. He's like, I know how to do that. It's a very Vulcan way to cope with shit. Also, I'm gonna go work.
Didn't the doctor also say that Tuvix has the two most annoying traits of both of these people, and that he doesn't want them to be there anymore?
Yes.
But see, that and this goes back to where I'm at with this. The minute that all the tests were done, they should have been like, all right, dude, here's your pod or here's your buffer. We'll see you when we figure it out. Bye-bye. And they put a temporary tactical officer and they put MC. They fucking reroute the replicators into some non-essential system. I don't know. But like, I know in Lower Decks that they say there's not an answer for this. Like, she had to go look at Janeway's logs. I call bullshit on that. There's got to be a Starfleet protocol for when something like a transporter accident happens. And in my maybe not good opinion, I think it's a good opinion. No. Let me finish. There's got to be a protocol about that. And that protocol is two people have just died. We have this thing. And listen, we see the orchids and shit like shrivel up and die when they try this again. This shouldn't have happened in the first place. You put the experiment in stasis or in the buffer until you find a solution. And Janeway's a scientist too. That's the other thing that bothers me about this. She should have been. Yeah.
Again, that's the logical reaction in a ship that is not stranded in like buttfuck nowhere.
I get it.
We hadn't lost like so many fucking people already, and like imagine you're stranded and like there's like your friends, like people died, and you know she speaks about Mark and how like grieving for like relationship that she lost and all this shit. I don't remember what happened in season 2 exactly, but isn't that like where they flip flop the ships between like the double ship and they end up with a new Hurricane and like they see
that
people,
was season
like,
2, yeah.
Their whole fucking crew dying. Like these guys are like PTSD of like losing people.
Yeah.
You're stranded on an island and like already most of your friends are dead. And then Eric and myself, we end up merged. Sorry, Eric.
Didn't Janeway get most of that crew back though? I don't think that they lost that many. Well,
like
at the initial caretaker they did. Yeah.
And I mean, they're grieving also the relationship they lost from Earth, from their planet, where they don't know that they will ever go back. Like Tuvok doesn't know he was gonna see his kid again. Like, and so you have the choice of having like a Jirik, or to have none of us. And you can talk a bit to me and a bit to Eric, or you can just grieve the death of both of us. And that's what they do. They don't go there because like they don't want to fucking grieve people again. And they have
I don't think they have to grieve people though. I think that the doctor is very capable. Even this is near the tail end.
Doctor is very capable.
He is. By the tail end of season 2, that dude's already done like crazy shit that like hadn't been done before. Like the problem I have with this episode is that we know that this wasn't going to be like the final resolution anyway. Like Tuvix was never going to survive this. So it was like, even from the beginning, this drives me crazy because they could have just, I'm speaking hypotheticals again, like Starfleet's real, but like there are protocols in place for a reason, stranded or not. And to be that person, Janeway decided to be that captain that went by protocol. We know what happens with the other side of that with the fucking Equinox. So
True. That is true. But I do like that episode because it's led by the heart until it's not.
Until it's not.
Until they all snap out of it.
And I'll give you the benefit
she snaps
too.
out of it.
She does. I'll give you the benefit too. Does he get some freedoms now? Okay, sure. He gets some freedoms now. Is it a mistake? Yes. The minute that the doctor does come back, like a couple days later, and be like, I can't do anything about this right now, that's when it's like, okay, dude, we got to put you away. Like, we'll figure this out. It's not going to be right now, but we got to put you in stasis. You can't. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Anyway.
I think it's very clear that Starfleet has no regulations.
I guess
no OSHA.
Because
there's no OSHA.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I'm not trying to dehumanize the doctor, but he's Starfleet software, and the fact that he objects to what happens means that there's no protocol for it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, let me ask you a question, MC.
Yes.
Had the doctor been able to do it right then and there, that the minute it happened, minus a few weeks later when Tuvix had become friends with everybody, do you think he would have done it?
Yes.
I do too. I think he would have done it. But Tuvix became friends with everybody, and that's when it became
thing to do. Also.
Yeah, I know.
By the way, talking about this merging and transporter accidents really makes me want to watch Cronenberg's The Fly.
Oh my God, I was thinking about that all week.
Okay, there's like, anybody watch the season 7 of Rick and Morty?
No,
I haven't seen it all.
Okay, so I'm not gonna spoil, but there's this episode where basically it's kind of like a Tuvix episode.
It very much is.
It's very much is, but like it's instead like Jerry and Rick gets scrambled, but they are still two different person, like in two different bodies, but their brain is like mixed up. So there are two new guys with the experience of the two guys and like everything. And it's a very good take on Tuvix, I would say.
It is, yeah.
It is a very good take on it.
I mean, there was a lot of Star Trek this season, so it would surprise me if it is a reference to Tuvix.
A lot of Star Trek.
I've been wanting to say this point, and I've been saying 1,000 others, so I haven't said it yet, but Chris brings up a great point in the chat. Tuvix would have been fine going into stasis at that time as well. His whole demeanor was to get back to his two selves at the beginning. Had they just followed protocol at the beginning, we don't have an episode, right?
Yeah.
And that's also part of the problem. We don't have an episode. But
And also, they have no protocol.
they have no protocol. Anyway, let's move on to Tuvix. Oh, sorry, Eric, go ahead.
Well, that's because at the beginning he was still his two halves. Like he still felt like he had the two memories, right? And then after living a life, I don't even remember if I went after MC.
You did.
No, I don't. Did you?
You were brief, and then I went.
I don't think I did.
No, we did. No, MC, because we were on me, and then it just devolved into.
I don't even know where
Hey,
Yeah.
This whole episode is.
No, I'm keeping track. Did you have more on that though, Eric?
I don't remember what I was talking about.
Let's talk about Tuvix getting a name and a tactical position. Kess is running these tests. We've talked about this already. And he goes with Nevok. And I like that NYRLite on Twitter called me out. Like, maybe Julian would have liked this episode had that been his name. I'm like, nah. And then he comes up with Tuvix. And later on, it throws Janeway off. Like, what? But as time goes by, and as I mentioned earlier, the doctor does think that a cure could possibly never happen. Weeks, months, maybe never. Janeway does let him take the tactical position because what Draft's been talking about all episode is true. They need people. Thoughts on this? Thoughts on, he's got a name. He's at this point, again, the chief tactical officer. Hawk.
So the whole thing with Cass, or I think, are we a little bit ahead on that?
No. No, we're actually behind, but
Okay.
we're on the name and him taking tactical.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, he'd already been kind of, making those inroads with the crew and that, trying to make those inroads with Cass and that, he was kind of, Eric and I were talking about that, where he was kind of seemed to really push to reestablish a relationship with Cass and that, even though like the entire thing was so messed up,
Very Neelix to do, though.
Gross.
I know.
It was really gross. It was fucked up.
It really was, and it was like, this is why I stress that, this was a completely new being, and that, it wasn't like it wasn't Neelix and Tuvok and that, struggling, or that this was a unique consciousness that had both their memories and that. And as I said, he seemed a little bit arrogant in that, and I think that arrogance kind of presented itself when him trying to, like, reestablish that relationship with Cass, and it was like, it was so bad because she was the two most important support people for her on that ship were gone, and she even stressed that. But as far as, like, he did offer, like, he went into the galley, he took control, he got everybody fed again and that, and it's like, and tactical in that, he actually did come up with this great solution to a problem they thought was going to take 10 weeks. By that point, barring that there was no hope of finding a way to separate the two in that, I think everybody was trying to make the best of the situation, in particular Cass.
Giraffe.
I don't really remember the question again. Because
thoughts on him getting a name,
promoting.
Janeway being thrown off on it,
Yeah,
and
because
him
we're talking
finally
about
taking
promoting
tactical.
Harry Kim in the chat, and that threw me off.
That's what should have happened. They should have put him in stasis, and Harry should have gotten his second pip.
That's
End
what
of
I'm saying.
episode. Done.
No,
I so
think
many
that
episodes should have been.
So many episodes. How many
once
times did Harry save Voyager?
400
Well,
times.
Once you name it, you're fucked.
Fucked. Fucked.
So I think they should have kept. See, if English had a plural "you," that would have been perfect. Like, keep him like Tuvok and Neelix. Like, do not let him forget. I do think that the whole point that is interesting is how it becomes like in the. It's how by name, because it's a question of identity, right? So naming himself gives him identity, but also being loved by the people around gives him an existence and an identity, even if he doesn't really have like a history and a background. So yeah, and again, there are people who are grieving so much. They're gonna name the new guy and they're gonna be proud of him. That's how it is. It's like when you name the chicken and then they tell you like you need to go and
Gordon Ramsay named the pigs that like he was gonna have like his kids help him slaughter and eat. Like, it's so
savage.
Yeah. Eric. No, sorry, MC.
No, MC.
Hey, I caught it this time.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring this up. Does Thomas Riker have a right to live?
Yes.
Thomas Riker is a transporter accident that
he's not a transporter accident. He's
no,
a transporter
he is
clone.
He is it's a
By
transporter accident that caused his existence. But he has a right to live.
He's got a right to live, and okay, because it's the person who had the transporter accident is still alive, right? It's just it's a copy. It's not a go. Yeah, go ahead, Drew.
I'm gonna add to MC's point. Okay, in The Enemy Within, the transporter clone of Kirk, does he have to have a right to leave?
Oh no, because it's separating the. Thomas Riker is an exact clone copy of William Riker, right? Like exact. He is a full person. Tuvok. See, I call him Tuvok. Tuvix is a. God, what do you even begin to call Tuvix? Is two people, and Kirk, when that happens, is split into two people, right? He's got the way too emotional and he's got the way too cold. Like it's not a complete person. Thomas Riker is a complete person.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
For me, it comes down to Thomas Riker. Will lost nothing in that exchange, right? There was nothing about that.
Deanna for like a hot minute.
That took, but that took away from the core of what Riker, of who and what Riker was. It was just simply a copy that was added. With Kirk, there was a genuine medical concern in that because, like his weaker half was dying without the strength of the bad Kirk, and that. With Tuvix, there were two lives at stake. And those lives had family and friends that loved them, and if there was a possibility of bringing them back, then that was the right thing to do, because basically, like I said, there were two lives at stake.
Yeah. Okay. I mean,
you started chicken. See now, like continue.
Yeah. No. I mean, I will be getting more into this later on when we actually get to the end of the episode. But I did want to bring this up just as a point because everybody's talking about, oh, he should have gone into stasis. I think now is the point where, as soon as he named himself, Janeway should have sat him down and be like, we're still trying to do this. We're still trying to separate you.
That's a great point. Mm-hmm. Also, the minute that she went Tuvix, stasis, that's what should have happened. Like, yeah,
because it's not. Because I know we're making jokes about naming chickens and this kind of stuff, but it's that Tuvix named himself.
Yeah. No one he knew what he was doing, and if you go all the way at the end of this episode, I feel like the character in Tom is Tom Wright, right?
Yeah,
Tom Wright did a very good job of low key, very subtly making Tuvix very manipulative.
Yep. Me and Hawk were talking about this earlier today.
Yes, we were.
I disagree. I think he did a really good job of making me feel sorry for him.
I also agree with that too.
Sorry for him.
I feel sorry for him.
Okay, at the very end when he's like being escorted by security on the bridge.
No, I feel sorry for him the whole thing. Like it's I mean, and that's why I have so many problems like with Star Trek calling biracial characters hybrids, because Tuvix is a hybrid. It's not biracial, it's hybrid, right?
Right.
Like a sudden mix, And the thing is that he has to navigate like these two very long experience that he has suddenly. And at the beginning, it just going bing, bang. And at one point, he's becoming able to marry them, like marrying to culture, and like being his own person when he's able to just use that wealth of knowledge and experience that he has. Because at the beginning, he wants to be split because there's too much. It's like a lot for one person. But then it becomes a real different person, like a third person that is not exactly just the sum of Tuvix, Tuvok and Neelix, right? Yeah. It's something more and something else, Yeah. So that's where I think that they fucked up. Yeah. Because at that point, he is a person and he's a new person and they cannot undo that. And there, he doesn't know. He thinks he's going to stay this way forever. Like, what are you going to do? Like, just like, what, like shoot yourself? I mean, like they could have played it like him being very depressed and stuff, like that would have been interesting, but he's Neelix also, so he can't. He's just going with it. And at one point, he's a totally new person. He has a point of view, and they say it very clearly. He has a different point of view than would have had Tuvok and Neelix.
I did want to briefly touch on. I want to let Eric go because he hasn't had a chance to go yet, but I do like that moment where like he goes with his gut, right, during a tactical decision, and that's not something. Tuvok is a very good tactical officer, but Vulcans don't always go with their gut. So
you see that in the next episode too.
Yep. Eric, go ahead.
Yep. Which one are we on?
We're
Tuvix's name, right?
The name and him going back to tactical.
I mean, at this point I feel like he's starting to fully realize himself, right? And it makes sense. Like they don't know if they're gonna get those two back. And even the doctor says, you know what, it may take years. And maybe if they were back in you know,
The Alpha Quadrant.
maybe they could just go back and clone him through the transporter and, you know, then separate the clone.
Oh, you spoiled what I was going to get into.
Oh shit! Sorry.
But yeah, but
was
there's
gonna
also
come
like
up.
they make a good point of like adding that there's a third kind of DNA,
Yeah, that's
scrambling everything, and that's what makes it difficult. It's not
Yeah.
just the two of them, and they can't isolate things because there's this plant thing at the same time. So I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll buy it.
They clone it, and then the second one gets turned into a plant. Tuvix and Neelix. It makes sense to me.
I mean, what
considering-
does happen to that plant? I mean, you never see that plant come out of them.
Oh,
I love that
Still is one of 'em.
a petal fucking like was still on Voyager and Tendi just had to let it float away. Everybody knows how I feel at this point. The minute that Janeway heard that he had a name, it was right to the buffer or into stasis. Like that should have been it. Definitely not the fucking tactical. And I say that after watching the whole episode, not like he should have gotten a tactical then. Like the dude shows later on in the episode when this is happening, and I get it's very emotional. He's about to die, and I think every single one of us would have this reaction. But like, I feel like he was very manipulative from the beginning, and by the end, like I just feel like he's selfish, and it's not a good situation.
I have a question. Do you feel that way because he actually is manipulative, or because you miss Tuvix and Helix?
No, I don't. I have no connection to Tuvok and Neelix. They're two of my. I like Tuvix, but he's not like I'm not connected to the character. I have my favorite characters on Voyager. No, I think it's just like this for me. Like I always look at this episode and for decades. And the first time I saw this episode, maybe not the first time. I was fucking young. But like as I got older and watched this episode, I always tried to look at this from the Starfleet captain's point of view. And from a captain, even if I had like personal relationships with these people, I think I still would have made this same decision to solve the problem by protocol, not by letting my grief or my emotions get the best of me. Like Tuvix throughout this whole thing, he worms his way but kind of into Kess's heart, right? Which is not great. He worms his way into the crew's heart. Like I think they just stasis.
We're gonna get more.
By the
into
way,
this.
you know
Yeah,
that
I don't like the. Sorry.
the transporter buffer doesn't work well. You remember in that episode where they're hiding people? They're very scared of like having them in the buffer because
That's because they
keep
had like
saying-
multiple people though.
Yeah, but
They were
like,
scared about it in Discovery in the 32nd century because they had the whole crew in there too. Like that it might be weird, right?
I don't know. Voyager is like clunky at that point. they got
That's all, yeah, okay.
They got a beating. Okay, sorry, MC.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm not sure I really care how Julian is using the word worm into people's hearts. I think he's just ingratiating himself. Like I have this very different view of Tuvix than you guys do. Like you seem to like. It seems like you guys. I'm gonna say you guys because I don't think Giraffe has not really indicated to feel this way. Is doing this you're acting like he's doing this in a very calculating way to like ingratiate himself to all of these people. But no,
but I think there's a certain
I think
point.
he's calculating.
I think at a certain point it became calculating. Yeah, I agree with Hawk.
well, I don't think so. I think he's just trying to exist here.
If
I think-
I was
I mean-
merged, if I continue and I'm merged with Eric, I'm still merged with Eric. You guys are still my friend. Like
Mhm.
I would not be like I am a new person. Like I'll be like, no, I'm gonna try to get back to having the relationship I'm missing because he's also grieving his former existence. Like we
Mhm.
don't really look at him and how this thing is impacting him, but it's most probably fucked up.
Yeah, it's got to be incredibly disorienting for him.
Again, and I
don't
agree.
See it? I don't see it at any point throughout it. In that he just
Because
seems
he's
very-
also Vulcan, Hawk.
Yeah, but he's also seems very fascinated, obviously, Vulcan in that, but he's not upset in any way about the situation of that. And it's like I think Neelix's emotions would probably, intermingle with like his Vulcan irrationality at that point.
Do you not know how Vulcans work? They are incredibly irrational. They just suppress it all down.
Manipulative. Vulcans are fucking manipulative too, god damn it.
It's fucking true.
I think he deliberately tries to make inroads to make himself useful in that, and ingratiate
but also
himself to
because he doesn't
people.
want to die.
The
Of
way
course.
that he tells Kess, and and y'all can disagree or agree with me here. It could be just a weird acting choice, or it could have been the writers really want you to question this shit. The way that he says, Kess, I love you, I was like, you motherfucker, how dare you? It felt so slimy to me. Like,
well, because Neelix,
it was Neelix saying it.
He's not slimy.
okay,
I mean,
no, but they were already in a relationship. Like,
I mean, it was still gross.
still slimy.
It was gross, but
yeah, but at least acceptable. Like,
And as we've-
Jenny, hold on real quick. Sorry. Jenny, hey, literally just discovered this podcast. What's happening, y'all?
Yeah.
Hello,
Hey,
welcome to the
Lou.
chat. Welcome. You picked a hell of an episode to watch for the
This
first
is
time.
not the normal.
So this is probably turning into one of our best
Kinda.
episodes very quickly. Anyway, I will continue to argue. So we'll move on to the next point. I'm actually going to try and look up into the chat. I was going to say this question, and I'm going to say it a little bit differently. It was from Chris. I'm trying to. Oh yeah. So we see Chris wrote up in the chat. We see a lot of Janeway's trauma here, and the decisions here not to do like my suggestions with stasis or the transporter buffer, because she's looking through her letters that Tuvok wrote her over the years, and Kess is struggling with missing Neelix, but also getting these weird fucking advances from Tuvix. And they both just like bond in this beautifully acted scene. I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's mainly about Tuvix, but if you guys have any thoughts on this scene, because I thought it was so well acted. Hawk.
I love that comment she made about his letters and that how everybody thought Tuvok wrote coldly, but she said he wrote concisely, and almost considerately in that. She could see his personality right through his own handwriting in that. And I think that speaks very strongly to the relationship of the two, and, why why her in particular, she wanted to find a way to, undo what had happened. She wanted her friend back.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Tuvok is the real first officer of that fucking ship.
Oh,
Okay.
100%.
They did that because they were too afraid of like the JC relationship. So they
I
called
think
Chakotay there. They put Chakotay there.
Well,
So
and also
that would not
like they
happen.
would never have gone for integrating the crews, right? If there wasn't like
Exactly.
one.
But we know that for especially still in season 2, for Janeway, her first officer is
It's
Tuvok.
Yeah.
Like is her ride or die boo. Is like, like they go like for his family,
I wrote this in the Discord earlier. Tuvok and Janeway's relationship very much reminds me of Jean-Luc and Guinan's relationship. It goes beyond friendship and it goes beyond family. Like there's just something inherently like ride or die with you till the very end, but it's never fucking sexual ever. But it is just something like eternal. And I love that about them.
And
Well, I mean,
guarantee you-
Tuvok is one of the people who Admiral Janeway is willing to tear apart all of time and space to save in
Yeah.
Endgame.
fucking true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hawk, what were you gonna say?
I don't know.
Exactly what MC said.
Oh.
That was like, I think that was her primary motive when old Admiral Janeway was thinking about whether or not to do that, to pull the trigger on that crazy scheme. It
Yeah.
was Tuvok that kind of made the decision
Yeah.
for her.
And I do
Sorry.
think it informs a lot of the emotional decision that she takes. And I think that's the thing is like for once, Janeway takes first the emotional decision, and then she's like, yeah, I need to do something. But it's still for her the best decision emotionally also because she gets Tuvok back. So
Yeah.
it's a very good episode for
Yeah.
Janeway. I like it. Anyway.
Before we continue, it's rare we have like new Trek level of viewership tonight. So if you're new like Jenny, or if you're tuning in for the first time in a while, do us a big favor. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, hit the like button. We would really appreciate that. I do this very rarely, but we have so many of you tonight. That would mean a lot. We are on MC.
Yes. This is a really great scene. Kes and Janeway just wonderfully acted. But I have to say that this scene drives home to me that, you're talking about, Starfleet protocols and all of this stuff. Absolutely none of that is in Janeway's mind when what she does at the end of the episode. She does it for purely emotional reasons because she wants her friend back, which, that's just fine. Well, it's not fine. It makes it straight up murder.
I disagree with that completely.
I mean, I know you disagree with me. I figure like we're getting to the point where everybody's just going to heartily disagree with me on everything. But like, especially with this scene, it becomes very clear that it is emotionality that is running things, because at this point, Tuvix is doing the job of both Tuvok and Neelix. So it's not so much about like the whole, I need to have two crew members, because the thing is, by the end of the series, like Neelix is gone anyways, so they're down one anyways. It does come down to, I want my friends back. And it makes it interesting. But I don't know if it's entirely justifiable.
Yep.
No, that's understandable. Like I agree with you, MC. Like the ending is her going with her emotions, and you can see her struggle. Like right now, she's thinking about losing Mark as well, right?
Yeah.
And like the inevitability that's probably going to happen because they don't know.
And does.
It
Yeah.
does, which is sad. And do you give up on the two people that you've known for such a long time, or not a long time, but these two people, like, do you give up on them as well just to have this new person there? It's such a moral quandary. Like, and as the captain, she, we'll get to that at the end. But this scene, beautiful. Like I like the acting from both of them were fantastic, especially Kate Mulgrew. Like, my God. But
so good.
But in what little we have of Kes in the 3 seasons that we get with her, like this was probably one of, like, she's so conflicted because she's starting to become friends with. I don't think she's romantically interested.
No,
in the lightest.
She lets it known that the relationship could evolve at some point in that, but she just wants friendship right now.
Wait, what? Are you talking about her and Tuvok?
Tuvix.
Are you talking about Kes?
Kes, yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
Yeah.
I was
And
like, Janeway?
No,
I was like, wait, what's going on?
No.
Sorry, I somehow got lost in translation.
It's cool.
I mean, let's face it. By this point, Kes was already starting to get really interested in Tom Paris. So, like,
yeah,
true.
Yeah, it's fucking true.
That is true. Actually, you can see Tuvix's heart breaking at the exact moment she says "friends," and wonderfully acted by Tom Wright. But yeah, this scene, I think I said everything I wanted to say.
Yeah. I think since we started talking about it, we're gonna go right into the cure and the choice, because that's where this has been leading to, and we've already talked about it a lot. The Doctor interrupts a beautiful clarinet session from Harry. Keep playing that clarinet, Harry. Keep playing it.
He wasn't playing that.
Like 1000% not playing that.
No,
It's
definitely not. After coming up with an idea to reverse the transporter, basically by using like 20th century X-ray technology, which was kind of neat, by the way. One big problem there: Tuvix does not want to die. Doesn't want to die. Ultimately, Kes pleads for Neelix to return. This is already after Chakotay and Janeway have had a meeting with him and been like, we haven't made up our minds, but like, this is probably what we're going to do. So to be fair though, I've already told Dempsey I agree with her. I tend to think that Janeway already made up her mind well before this. Tuvix does not go willingly after Janeway explains why she's making the decision. And once in sickbay, the Doctor refuses under the Hippocratic Oath, which, to be fair, out of all of this is the best decision in the entire episode. Like 100%, like, good on the Doctor. he doesn't do the operation or the procedure, which leaves Janeway to do the separation, which she does without a flinch. And then this begs the decades and decades, well, not decades and decades, but like 20-year question. Did she do the right thing? Hawk.
Yes, she absolutely did the right thing in that. As we pointed out, I found him so manipulative in that almost from the get-go in this episode, and that in particular, like you really see it when the decision comes down, and he starts worrying that Janeway is going to force him to do it, and he runs to Kes and that, begging her to, basically advocate for him and for his life. And she goes to Janeway, and Janeway is infuriated by it and that. And you can see why, because like in this new person that Tuvix is, there are none of the qualities of Tuvok or even Neelix in that when it comes to compassion and like, and empathy for other people. Like the needs of the many, and that you do not see any of that in his, in him at this point. And he is just completely led by the emotions. And I get it. He's a sentient
hey Hawk,
being.
I want to shoot you in the head.
Yeah, I know. It's awful, but maybe you have a good reason. I don't know.
Especially when they could have avoided the
I
whole
think-
situation in the first place.
I think
Sorry,
it's
Draft God.
it's a bit different than shooting him in the head. Like, we know that fucking Star Trek loves splitting people in two.
Yes, they do.
So that's actually the only episode where I think there's a very good take on it. Because every time they end up splitting Spock, splitting B'Elanna,
Kirk.
they
Yeah.
split Kirk, like it's always like in a way where the person that has been splitted is kind of like, this is fine, this is great, this is fantastic, look at me, I'm way better this way because I was not totally a real complete human. I was just two weird halves glued together. And which is wrong. We already had this conversation many times. And I feel that at this point, Tuvix has become one person that we like, that we don't like, that we like manipulative or not. And they're like, we're going to split you in two. And he's like, fuck no. Because if you split me in two, I do not exist anymore. And that's what I was talking about when we end up talking about Charade, which I want to stop talking about fucking Charade. But that's the thing, is like, and that was the point I was making. If you split me in two, like the person that would be here would not be me. I would not exist anymore because I cannot flip-flop like he's doing at the beginning between Tuvok and Neelix, and he's like, oh, logic, oh, see. And like when he still has like the two kind of like separate entity kind of, or like knowledge in him, and he can manipulate them, it becomes so intertwined that, yeah, he's gonna die, and he knows it. So I understand Tuvix 1000%, because everybody's like, no, it's gonna be fine. We're gonna split you in two, and then you're gonna be great, like they do with Spock, for example. They're like, oh, he's so funny, like fuck that, no. Praise what's her face. Chappelle was the only one who was trying to unsplit him in two.
Yeah.
Because she's like, it's not him. Yeah, it's not him. So that's the thing. I understand. It's very well done. I understand Tuvix, but at the same time, like, because it's a philosophical dilemma. There's no ethical solution. There's only a bad solution and a less bad solution. And Janeway has to take the decision because she's the captain. Fair enough. And she chooses to, instead of having one person that does one thing and has become one person that is like average or tactical and kind of good at kitchen, to bring back two people that are very good in their own thing, right?
Is Neelix good in the kitchen?
Well, he's also an
he's
ambassador.
fucking awful in the kitchen.
He also
But he is a
knows
good ambassador. Yeah.
He knows a lot of shit. Like,
Yeah.
he helps them a lot, and also people that are loved, that have families, that are important to her. So I think, and the utilitarianism, like it's a utilitarian choice, and also it's an emotional choice. But for her, it lines up, and I think that for her, she already has made the decision when she comes to the bridge. But the fact that when she says, this is how we're going to go, and he's like, no, and he turns to the bridge, absolutely not. Bitch, no. Was the big?
I'm gonna talk about that. Yeah.
Was the captain here? And you know that Tuvok would not be.
Nope.
Look at her. She's trying to murder me. Like no Neelix. Like they'd be talking to her. They'd be like understanding the solution. I mean,
Yep.
I understand the reaction of Tuvix because he's like, I'm gonna fucking die. Fair. But at the same time, for her, it's very clear that she also has a bridge crew that does not listen to order and was not ready to talk with her. Understanding that he's emotional because he's gonna fucking die, right? All this. So yeah, she did absolutely. She chose the less bad choice and the utilitarian one, which when you're stranded in the Delta Quadrant, in the middle of nowhere, and you don't know how you're gonna go back home, and you're missing your friend, and all this and all this, all that. For her, it's a difficult one, but it's the right one.
Yeah. Well said, by the way. Like, love everything you just said. MC.
I remain thoroughly convinced that if Neelix had been combined with like Lieutenant Carey, none of this would have been a fucking issue. Like Janeway would have been like, well, sucks for them. Like
You would forget the person exists.
Let's not waste resources on
Who's
this.
Lieutenant Carey?
yeah, no, seriously, like let's not fool ourselves. Like it's entirely because of Tuvok. And I'm somebody who like I love Tuvok. So like for me, like if Tuvok hadn't been in the mix, I'd be like, I probably would have been fine with like Tuvix being there instead of Neelix and whoever the fuck got combined with. I mean,
Dana's
nothing
in the
against.
chat. Sorry, real quick. Dana, if you're in the chat, hi, friend of mine. Hi, Dana. Sorry, MC, keep going.
Yeah, nothing against the actors. I'm just talking about the characters. Anyways, yeah, as Giraffe was saying, it's like the ethical question of what Janeway did. Like it's like almost impossible to like. But I think the difference between letting Tuvix remain is that Janeway was an accident. Like it's not like Janeway forced them together, but she is forcing them apart. So she is making a conscious decision to kill Tuvix. Does Tuvix living mean that Neelix and Tuvok don't live? Yes, but that was just something that was a matter of course. That was not
Right.
Janeway did not cause that to happen in the first place, other than the fact that she sent them to the planet. But you know that happens, and I brought this up at the beginning of the show. Voyager not taking time to like think up other solutions, as like there wasn't a rush to take them apart. Like Janeway just decided that right away.
Oh, yes, there was. Absolutely.
He would have bailed. He
Yeah,
would have
well, one he
1000%
would have
bailed.
bailed. Two, he would have ingrained his way into everybody's fucking heart, and then you have a big fucking problem.
Okay, well here is the thing. Janeway really does not have any. She executes them. Like just she acts like she does actually execute them, and with no reason other than that's the way she wants it. And at this point, if you know, we have the solution to separate them. How about we take a minute to like, hey, let's figure out a way to clone you. I heard about this case on the Enterprise where the first officer was cloned. Like, what if we clone you and then split one of you? And then
you don't have an episode.
Okay, you also
Yeah.
don't think that you don't think that had they had the opportunity to keep all three, they would have? Because I feel like they would have.
I mean,
I don't think there was a choice.
I mean, they seem to make the decision really fucking quickly. So I don't even think they considered it. Like they haven't considered, this is the way that I'm looking at the episode. I mean, I know I'm looking at the episode differently than everyone else, but I feel like as soon as the solution came up, Janeway's like, okay, so we're going to do this. And it is the thing that tells me that it's the wrong thing to do is the fact that the doctor is against it. Like if it was absolutely like right by Starfleet protocol, like this, like Janeway is the last word on this, then the doctor should have, because sometimes doctors have to, sometimes death happens, but the doctor's Hippocratic oath, like it's because it's for him, it's, again, I'm sorry for turning the doctor into software, but it's programmed into him. Like at this point, he's still exploring his humanity. He's not fully
okay, I
developed.
agree about the programming, but I will say that every single Starfleet doctor would have made the exact same decision not to go through with the procedure, whether they agreed with it or not. Like, I think the doctor fully was on board with separating them, but due to one, his programming, and two, his at this point, the fact that he's been evolving and
you don't think Julian Bashir would have done it?
No, I don't think Julian Bashir would have done it.
Julian Bashir would have absolutely found a solution to keep all three of them.
He would have. No, I think that there's not a Starfleet doctor who would have.
I know one Starfleet doctor. I was like, fuck that.
Who?
Pulaski.
Absolutely.
No, 100%. The chick who replaced Worf's spine, she would have done it.
Oh, totally.
Not her too. And Dr. Tiana, she was like, fuck that. I don't have time.
I don't have time for this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, Bashir never would have done it. He fucking remember
he would have found a way to save them all.
Yeah.
Eric.
No. I'm trying to think of where I start with this. Tuvix, his reaction is totally understandable. Obviously, like everyone has said here, they're ending his life, and I'm gonna be controversial. I agree with MC. They went through that really fucking fast without them being like, maybe we can clone his personality and put in the holodeck, which is sort of sometimes working, or something like that. Like, there could have been ways to save that personality or him, as it just seemed really fast. And I do agree with that. I think
I agree with you guys, but then the episode doesn't hit the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
the thing is, we're looking at it both from the Doyleist and the Watsonian point of view. Like, are we going to talk about it as an episode, or are we going to talk about it like as if it actually happened?
Yeah, 1,000%.
For sure. That being said, I think obviously the doctors would not have done it. I agree with everyone here saying that I don't think any doctor would have done this. And the fact that Janeway's the one that did it made sense because
it's appropriate.
She's the leader. She made the decision. The person who makes the decision swings the sword, as Ned Stark said.
Love that.
Like it's so morally complicated, but I feel like despite the rushing, like they saved 2 lives, lost 1, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard. Like nobody likes it when the dog gets sick and has to, get put down and that, but somebody's got to take it to the vet, right? And that was Janeway's function the entire time.
Often the dog's not pleading for its life, though.
Yeah.
Well, but also, like, there's one thing we have not said is that Tuvok and Nilix have not chosen to be there.
Yes.
It's not their choice. And like I've seen a lot of
to be back.
They didn't. Yeah, they
No,
didn't
to be
choose
merged.
it.
Oh, to be merged.
Yeah,
No, it's not their choice. No.
So basically, yes, Tuvix doesn't want to die, which fair the fuck enough, totally realistic. And I like that about the episode, that he's not, yes, I'm gonna sacrifice myself because fuck that. Like, no.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, Tuvok and Nilix have never they never made a choice. So
Yeah.
exactly. It's like, yeah.
Oh, and one more side note. Like, this must have been a personal hell for Tuvok because remember how much he disliked Neelix in that? Remember when he had an acquired brain injury and that was the only time he and Neelix were able to become friends?
He has a holodeck program where he goes and punches him.
He does. Yep. I want to read So going into my thoughts, I want to read Lizard King Slawinski's comment. There are times in which the stoicism of the people in Trek rubs me the wrong way because they came across as unfeeling. The crew just watched him plead for his life and barely react. So I have a lot of opinions on this because I know there's a whole scene about how Janeway's doing her log and that Tuvix has made friends with some people, but that's not the entire crew. There's 120 something people on this crew. Not all of them feel that way, and especially the bridge crew. Like I always look at this episode too, that from the minute this happened, Janeway didn't make an emotional decision. She had her mind made up the minute that this happened. When there was a solution, she was going to get her tactical officer back and her morale officer back. I've watched another episode after this today where I always forget the name of it. It's a great episode where Neelix, I mentioned it earlier in the pod, where Neelix dies and Seven brings him back. But before he dies, they're in the mess hall and Seven says something about how unique. We're talking about Tuvok all the time during this episode, but how unique Neelix's role to this crew is. He's the head chef, he's the morale officer, and he's the ambassador. And one of the reasons they've made it as far as they have through the Delta Quadrant. We could all shit on Neelix all we want because he's not the greatest character in the world, but there's not, like, without a shadow of a doubt, they would not have gotten where they got to without him. So you're not only talking about getting Janeway's, like, bestie back, you're talking about getting someone who is also invaluable to you getting to your ultimate destination, which is back home. Janeway didn't make an emotional decision. She made a decision to get this crew back home the best way she possibly could. The whole crew not reacting on the bridge, I don't think it was for lack of emotion. I think it was just a lot of them also felt the same way. They see Tuvok on the bridge every single day, right? Like and again, like everybody's saying, well, I feel for Tuvix in the situation. 100%. If that's me and I'm about to get split into two people, fuck yeah. I'm trying to run. I'm making the same.
You're gonna do the Janet in the good place. Please,
yeah. I'm gonna fucking beg for my life. Listen, I don't want to. I am very weird about death. Like I don't want to fucking die. So like, I will do that. So I get that. But I think to say that Janeway made an emotional decision, her decision was made up from 0.00 at this episode. Even before it happened, she would have made that decision every single time. So to answer the question, did she do it? Did she make the right decision? 100%. And if it was me, I'd make that decision every single fucking time. Does she flinch after the fact? Yeah, I think anybody in that situation would have flinched. Does she flinch at all during the process of it? No, because of exactly what Giraffe said. She's the fucking captain, and she's the one that brings the fucking sword down.
Also, she looks like shit whole through the thing.
The whole
she's
episode.
not liking doing that. But also, Starfleet is a militaristic operation.
Yeah.
She is the captain. The bridge crew doesn't fucking open their mouth. Like, she's the one who's gonna get them back. And they all made a choice, right? To stay here and, like, follow her orders and, like, accepting that they're gonna go by the book. She says it goes. You can't do that. Bye. Like, she needs unity in the crew, you know, which is good because she's a good captain. Like, if like you see, Equinox doesn't go this same way because he's a bad captain. But
I don't know if it's entirely by the book because I don't think that there's anything in the book possibly about this. And somebody in the chat, and unfortunately I can't remember who because it was very early on in the episode, said that this was Janeway's In the Pale Moonlight, which I think is very true.
Oh, 100%.
That this
Absolutely.
is this the moral decision? I don't think that there is a moral decision in this case, but it is the decision that she can live with.
it's a less bad one.
Yep.
And I just want to shout out Tom Wright for his acting in this because it is fucking heartbreaking. And in a lesser actor, I don't think I would have been caping so much for Tuvix in this.
And fun fact about this episode, they tested Ethan Phillips to do the role and they said no. And they tested Tim Russ to do the role too. And both of them I think, decided on their own not to do it because they both said that they would favor each of their own characters in playing the role. So they went with Tom Wright, who would Tom Wright. What's cool about Tom Wright is that he auditioned for roles that both Tim Russ and Ethan Phillips would audition for. So he was very familiar with their body of work, which is really cool.
Plus, he was friends with them as well because
Yeah,
he had done
exactly.
I think he did a play with Ethan Phillips. Yeah.
Yep.
The makeup looks fucking weird.
It's weird. It's weird as fuck.
Like, this
And it
is
should.
the
Hair, everything.
main reason to shoot him. Let's be honest. He looks creepy AF. Like with those red eyes.
Do you know how much I've wanted to say this all episode and I didn't for like risk of like getting shit on by everybody? So I'm glad it was you and not me.
Am I wrong? This hair?
No, you're not wrong.
No,
I
I
thought
mean the hair
was
really
fuck out.
got to me. I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks creepy, but that's not a reason to kill guy.
No.
Well, I mean,
You
it's
know,
not
decided
like
apparently.
very less than that. Let's be honest.
Oh my
It's a
God.
small ship.
Oh.
I mean,
I would say, I mean, I will say it. Your final thoughts will go in the reverse order. So, Eric.
I like this episode. It's very. I hadn't seen it in years.
Yeah.
And I had to watch it a number of times just because I was so conflicted all the way through. And I don't know. I think every time I saw something and every time I thought something different, and I still like this episode. I still do. I look at it differently than when I was a teenager, but
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
it.
Yep. MC?
I really like this episode. This is actually one of my favorite episodes. And does Janeway murder Tuvix? Absolutely. But Cisco assassinated someone and Archer did a genocide. So, like, it's just what captains do.
And
Yeah,
Jean-Luc
yeah.
killed thousands of people during Wolf
Thousands,
359. You know,
yeah.
it's part of being captain in Star Trek. Yep. Who's Dreff?
I always really like this episode because again, it's the only one where you can really reflect about why is it wrong to split people into, and but also why sometimes you should, but and also I really like the fact that for once Star Trek doesn't like give you the key of the metaphor. Like I was telling pre-show that I was reading online that people read this episode as talking about abortion, about being non-binary, being trans, about being biracial, about like so many different things. Like so many people see themselves or like a part of their experience in that weird character that comes only in one episode, and I love that about that episode. And also that I do think it's a very smart episode. It's very, very intelligent. Because again, there is no right answer. And we're really put in the same shoes than Janeway that needs to make a decision. And I like when Star Trek is smart like this. Unfortunately, when Star Trek is smart like this, there's a lot of people that choose to not be smart around this and go, justice for Tuvix. I was like, have you watched the episode? Have you sat a minute and like consider the everything of the episode? And it's a bit sad that it's relegated to just, being also a judgment of the female captain because she must be wrong,
and that's the thing. I know that the cast brought it up during when Trek Geeks did Trek Talks of a couple of weeks ago when they did the Tuvix panel, that they thought it was like like a disservice to Janeway as a character, which I have to say I agree with. Like I don't know, like you have such a strong, amazing character, and then like you put that character in a position like this, it's like I don't know. I half agree because it's still really strong, and I do think she makes the right decision, and I think she's strong for doing it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Like
I'm feeling bad now because I'm before Hawk. So
Yeah.
but I want to say, to add to what you were saying, it's what we see Michael Burnham do also, having this very deep like dilemma and having to make a decision that is at the beginning she doesn't know how to make an emotional decision, like how to take into account the emotion she may be feeling, which like led to a lot of like things in the first season, right? But we see her in season 4 taking into account this emotion, making the choice to try to save Buck, making choices to save the crew, and so on and so on, you know? And it's very interesting to see that somehow Janeway gets cheated on for the same thing that Burnham gets cheated on, but that Riker doesn't get cheated on, you know? So you're like, check your biases.
Yeah. Yep.
Hawk.
For all the reasons Draft just stated, everybody else just stated, this is a great episode of Star Trek. It's a great episode of sci-fi. Yeah, people shit on Janeway and that for absolutely no reason other than she was a female captain and made a really hard decision. Why don't you get out there and do that, critics?
Fucking A, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I still think she made the right decision. I never really liked Neelix or Tuvix's character. I agree with Julian. He was manipulative to the point where it's like it was Tuvok's tactical strategy and great intellect with Neelix's, charisma and that combined together to create this being who was, who wanted to live so bad, was willing to just say or do anything to ingratiate themselves. And one last thing, I haven't seen the episode in ages, but I remember Trip's clone was a lot more dignified in the way he went out.
That episode.
Oh, but wait. That is a fucked up episode.
That is a fucked up episode. Yeah.
Like the clone that they like all considered as their kid and they grew him up like super fast and then they're like, we're going to harvest your organs.
Kill you.
Yeah.
Dude.
That's so fucked. Yeah.
See, and that's an
that.
episode where I'm going to say they feed you the metaphor and they're like, this is how you're supposed to think. Like we're saying like you're half white and half black. Like it's like too much. You're like, no.
This one doesn't feed you the right answer. There is no right answer.
I don't know. I'm maybe the only one on the pod that thinks there's a right answer on this one. Like I don't know. Anyway, that's my take. I've always thought there's a right answer. Maybe I'm cold as fuck and.
Oh no! Wait! Not in a right answer, like to do it or not, but like a right answer to interpret the metaphor.
Okay. Yeah.
Like it's not a clear metaphor.
Right? No. 100%.
A societal problem,
100%.
or like a question, or like a progress, or like it's not like cogenitor, or like the one where Riker discovered that non-binary people exist.
Yeah.
These ones.
I've watched this episode twice, I think, in about a month and a half, and I think I have a newfound appreciation for it after these past 2 hours. Like having this conversation with you guys, like the only time that you really have these conversations is if other podcasts do it, or if you see the occasional someone trying to stir up drama and make a fucking tweet about it, and it gets into like everybody's bullshit. Like having a 2-hour discussion about that episode definitely makes me have a newfound appreciation for it. I'm like glad that we did it. Is the episode named? Yeah. We're doing Tuvix? Yes. And we did Tuvix, and I think we did Tuvix fucking well. So I'm really proud of us. Newfound appreciation.
Pat on the back, everyone.
Pat on the back. Pat on the back.
I always said I fucking loved that episode, and I wanted to do it forever.
Well, we finally did. And balls. Pat on the shoulder to everyone in the chat for great commentary tonight. Speaking of, we're going to continue that. Let's get to the subspace to poll and mailbag.
Hailing frequencies open.
Who wants to take the poll? By the way, I said at the beginning, if you want, Eric's going to take it. The most lopsided fucking poll that we've ever done. One of the most lopsided polls. Here it is. Eric.
We asked Trek Twitter the very same question, and this is what they had to say. 82% said Janeway did nothing wrong, and 18% said justice for Tuvix. You didn't want a middle ground in there?
I was going to say, there might have been different had you put in a middle ground.
I wonder, did they hold a funeral for him?
No, absolutely.
No.
I doubt
they
it.
did. No.
But did they hold a welcome back party for Tuvix? Or Tuvok and Neelix?
They basically did for Neelix after he died. Eric went with the poll, so that means it's me. I'm going to start with mailbag. Yum Yum Pod wrote, I overall enjoy this episode and the issue it puts forth. The acting is great from the cast, but the work from Tom Wright is the real gold here, as he nails what's a melding of these two characters would be, but makes sure to let Tuvix come across as his own man, which further adds to the drama. My big complaint with the episode is how the internet, I was just saying that, and memes have really sucked the air out of it, which was once a fine but divisive episode that you could make for a lively conversation is now turned into something that I dread being brought up because the exact same talking points and jokes are made. Yeah, very good point. Great mailbag, Yum Yum Pod.
Yeah.
Back to the top. Hawk, if you could take Matt Harker's, please.
Sure. Matt Harker wrote, "It had been a long time since I watched this. It really hits different for me now. The conversation between Janeway and Kes about grief, Tuvix asking Kes to defend his life, and when Janeway's expression breaks for the briefest moment after separating Tuvix are examples of why this is an extremely well-written episode. And that's without mentioning the superb job by Wright. Tuvix gets a bad rep."
Indeed. And Giraffe, can you take Chris's, please?
Yes, Chris wrote, "The controversy is fun and funny to me, especially when people get super adamant. It's a well-done representation of the trolley problem, and there is no satisfactory answer. It is shocking how the actor nailed it out of the park, having both characters' mannerism down and locked in. I felt for Tuvix, but I suppose I have to stick with Kate Mulgrew when she explained in Chicago that he was just such an annoying man, he simply needed to go. I paraphrase, but there is no going against such a wise and formidable woman."
I mean, truth.
Fair.
Fair. MC, can you take Tara's, please?
Tara wrote, "I rewatched Tuvix last night, and what really stood out to me this time was how Tuvix seemed to be the best of both men in so many ways, except the most important one. Both Tuvok and Neelix would not have hesitated to sacrifice their lives for their crewmates. Tuvix's righteousness about his own life was actually inappropriate and selfish. Also, Kate Mulgrew was especially brilliant in this episode. And now, a special limerick. A transporter accident causes symbiogenesis, fusing two men, a result without precedence. Now Mr. Tuvix exists, but wait, there's a twist. To leave him as is would be negligence. Hashtag Janeway was right."
Love it. Who's back up?
Me.
Eric, can you take Colin D's, please?
Colin D wrote, "After watching it again, I was especially impressed with the struggle Janeway went through. I didn't remember it being that hard for her. The acting prowess shown by Mulgrew and Wright both were phenomenal. I stand on the it was the right decision side."
There's another line.
There is another line. "Then Mariner, Janeway outright murdered him."
And I guess it's me taking us home with NYRLites. This is why I watch Trek. Good writing, good acting, and a difficult moral choice. I'm still not sure after all this time if I agree with Janeway's choice, but I respect her willingness to make the hard call on Tuvix. This was a great episode, guys. Like, really good. I'm happy we did it. I'm really happy we did it. Before we go, I had it in big bold letters because I forgot to do it at the top of the show. A very big thank you to our Badmirals. Those are our executive producers for the show. Simon Stager, Commander Chris, the Chief Ernesto Castagna, Chris Waterman, and Tara Pollen. Thank you for keeping our replicators running and attached to those holodecks like MC wants. It means a lot. You guys rock. Before we go, next week, we're doing Best of Geordi, and we're doing it differently. LeVar Burton's birthday is next week, and instead of me coming up with a watch list or looking at some of the Best of Geordi episodes, each of us picked out an episode that is our favorite Geordi episode, which I think is going to be really fun. Okay, Jurassic.
The less bad one.
Okay, the less bad one. And we're going to do watch parties for those starting on Monday. So we'll have that list up for you soon. Can't wait for that one. That is going to do it. So for MC, for Giraffe, for Hawk, for Eric, for me, I'm Julian. Live long and prosper. Sarcastic Vulcan salute. Majram. Good night.
Thanks for beaming into our podcast today. If you want to keep the hailing frequencies open, you can subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. Like what you hear? Put in a good word with Starfleet and leave us a 5-star review.